our summer vacation to talk sports. We are happy to be back. We know some of you have messaged us. We appreciate the love that we have gotten while we were gone. We are human. We need breaks too. These gentlemen have kids. I don't. I'm just practicing. But I have imaginary kids, apparently. And, I've just been enjoying the summer and sports. Gentlemen, while we've been gone, before we catch up, we've missed the Olympics. A lot has happened. The last time we were on here, we did our Olympic auction.
Yep.
In that time, we got to see Ray Gunn become the topic of the Olympics. She has since come out with a video and asked to stop being bullied by the media. Shout out to Ray Gunn. I pray you never break dance again. We have the Paralympics coming up soon, so I still don't understand why you don't capitalize right on the energy of the Olympics and do it right directly after, but I don't have control over that, so there's that. USA won during that. Steph Curry showed that he's him. LeBron shows that it doesn't matter how old he is, he's still going to bust most of the world's ass, and he has proceeded to do that. It also has let us know that outside of a few NBA players, these NBA players in America need to get their shit together because the world is coming and it is very scary if you are paying attention to what we saw in the Olympics. Simone Biles, and she is great. We got to see that greatness. We also got to see a lot of swimming. China is apparently just uber dynamic. They are born in pools and literally swim and dive and know everything about a pool. Shout out to China for that. Archery. I got to watch archery. Some guy shooting like he's in an anime. There's just a lot of stuff that happened during that. Just that. We got some baseball. Sam, I'm sure you've been excited watching baseball. I know we've all texted about that, what's going on there. We got basketball approaching soon, but more importantly, what this episode is about today is football. We get to talk a lot about football, and I don't want to waste any more of your time, even though I already have.
We got a shout out to Ray Gunn and a shout out to China.
We did. You gotta come in hot, man. You gotta let them know what's going on.
A month ago.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Shout out Ray Gunn. I did not have that on my bingo card.
No. You never know what you're gonna get with me, Harrison. You never know.
I'm happy with the results of our auction because I got to see one of the greatest basketball games played. That was a lot of fun. Not to harp on again something from weeks ago, but man, what a moment!
It was great. Women stressed me out in the championship game.
Yeah.
I mean, both teams stressed me out in the championship game, but that's that. Let's talk about some football, gentlemen. First and foremost, let's talk about how your guys' summer was.
Great.
Yeah, it was good.
Good summer.
Kids.
All right, summer, guys. That's all they're giving us, so we're just going to keep rolling with this.
8 out of 10 summer.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys, for that rave review. We today are going to preview the NFC. Figure we do the NFC first because next week we have the first game of the season of the year, and it's leading off with the Kansas City Chiefs, who start with the potential of having a three-peat, but we'll get there next week. NFC. We got a lot of things going on, and today when we were writing this rundown, a big news drop happened with CeeDee Lamb finally getting his extension with the Dallas Cowboys. It's worth $136 million, and it's $36 million guaranteed, and it's for a 4-year contract. I know they were reporting it was the years was the part that was holding them up. At this point in time, Sam put a beautiful question. How does this impact the team and him, gentlemen?
I think it has to be obviously positive. He's, now the second highest paid wide receiver in the league. He's one of the best wide receivers in the league. And you need Dak to have outlets. Obviously, we've seen he's a good quarterback, not great. So I don't see how it doesn't impact them very positively, and you'll see that later in my picks. The team, they're better. Obviously, they're better with them. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think in today's age, it's not like these guys are just like not working, right? There's concern. I think just generally, and I've just read and heard some stuff like the guys that hold out and really don't do anything
normally
much
get
closer.
Injured.
Yeah, and there's a lot of concern there. But to Harrison's point, the Cowboys need CD. They're gonna feed him. So we'll get to it. Worried about this line, worried about the running game, but you have to imagine that he is ready to perform, and he's 25 years old. So, I'm glad
he's had no real injury history. I mean, obviously we say that now, knock on wood, but I don't see what. Yeah, he's been working. Why wouldn't he be? He wants to show improve, and I think he'll do that. I love his game.
I think this is just talking and having a conversation with a friend of the show, Fargus. It's just you got to remember a lot of these players don't want to do training camp. Period. And during contract times, it's the perfect time to be like, I'm not playing. Let me just get this off, and then we get a deal done right before the season starts. Yes, a lot of guys work and put in the work, but it's also a difference between putting work on your own and not getting touched, and then also actually getting touched, right? Like getting tackled and so on and so forth. I don't think necessarily any of these players need to get tackled. They know what it feels like to be tackled, right? They know what it is. That whole thing of Aaron Rodgers needs to get tackled and so he can feel what it feels like. He's been tackled plenty of times in his life. He's been playing football for 2 decades of his life. He knows what it feels like to be tackled. I don't think he just needs to go out there just to prove a point. He knows what to take a hit. Same with CD. But I am, just to Sam's point, the history of guys that hold out and don't play in any inner team scrimmages and whatnot. There's a tendency of getting hurt, but I hope that is not the case, and I hope he doesn't, because especially for Cowboys fans, he is your only offense. But we'll get into that in a second.
I think too, to the point, Brandon Ayuk and Jamar Chase are holding in, which is weird. Like I don't know how they're allowed to do that under. I'm more power to them. Again, I wouldn't want to do training camp too, either. But they're at least with the team. I don't know in what capacity. They're probably not putting pads on and getting hit.
They're not.
To your point. But at least they're at the facility every day and working out and doing all that. Again, I have to imagine that CD and his camp are, not sitting on the couch. They're getting ready.
Not at all.
I can also see like the impact of training camp being more functional for like the interior of the offense, like quarterbacks, running backs, linemen, where you want to get kind of the speed of the game, a few reps in here and there. For wide receivers and corners, I mean, you're kind of one-dimensional to the football game where you're just running routes and guarding routes. So, I think the learning curve or the adjustment period from a training camp to a regular season, it's not going to impact those positions as much.
Agreed. Speaking of Brandon Ayuk, what is happening with them? They still haven't signed Trent Williams yet. Brandon Ayuk is potentially going to be traded, potentially not going to be traded. They have a package with the Steelers, but the rumor is the reason why that hasn't gone through, that trade, is because the Steelers don't have a wide receiver to give back, and the Niners are looking for a wide receiver back. Steelers don't have that. What do you guys think is going to happen with that?
Yeah, they're not going to trade Pickens for him. So
no, absolutely not.
And I wouldn't.
They want to pair Pickens and him together. Do you think that he starts the season with the Niners, or do you think that he is absolutely going to get traded at this point?
It's a weird situation. I mean, the Purdy dollars are looming. It's a similar situation we've talked about, last couple pods with the Eagles. Like let's lock up these guys where we can. I know they have Debo locked up, but yeah, Trent Williams. It sounds like they're not close there. They got to pay Brock at some point, and you have a lot of it's a very top heavy offense, both or salary wise roster. Bosa, McCaffrey, etc. So yeah, no, I think everyone says like it was like he was gone, and now all of a sudden the momentum sounded like it was going to get done, and Jerry Rice was cryptically tweeting things. I mean, I would tend to trust if Jerry Rice knew something, just because where he stands in that franchise.
Organization.
It's so weird. I think they'll keep him. I think they're better off keeping him. He kind of, he has the leverage to go where he wants. He played with Jaden Daniels when Jaden was at Arizona with him in college. So like there was that rumor to begin the summer, but that seems to not go anywhere. But then they traded Jahan Dotson to your Eagles, so now there's some room, some extra draft capital. I don't know. I think if I had to pick right now, I think he's staying. But what do you guys think?
I think he's gone. I think he gets traded. That's just a gut feeling. I really don't know. It could go either way, obviously, but I don't think he ends up on the Niners. I think they're just too far separated.
I tend to lean towards what Harrison has chosen here, because of the Trent Williams contract. They have to pay Trent. He's a Hall of Famer, left tackle or right tackle, left tackle. Excuse me, Hall of Fame left tackle. They're going to have to pay him. He has to shore up the line to protect Birdie on his blind side, and you don't find left tackles like him out in the wild like that. Wide receivers you can find in a draft. Not saying they're automatically going to be a Branden Ayuk, but I feel that is something more replaceable than a left tackle. So I honestly feel it really depends on what his contract is going to be. Don't really know how long they are. It's kind of been hidden under the Ayuk talk, but I think that really is what's going to move the needle or not. And depending on how much Trent makes, because this is essentially going to be his last contract because he's up there in age and football terms. So I really think it depends on that.
I don't have PFF in front of me or anything like that, but he's still one of the highest ranked tackles in the league. Especially for what, if we're prioritizing here, then you especially with an older Christian McCaffrey, and you have Debo can do a lot of different things. They drafted Ricky Pearsall kind of in that Debo Ayuk, like I can do a lot of different things role. Then you have to prioritize Trent here, and he's still top there. And that zone running scheme is so important on space, and you need a stud left tackle to make that work. So if that's the case, I don't know when cut day is either. Probably very soon. But everything I heard was he's staying, but who the hell knows? I don't know anything.
Agreed. Well, with that said, go ahead, Harrison. I'm sorry.
No, they're just up against two different things. Like first, Trent Williams has to get negotiated with first, and then second of all, now the CD contract. So he's going to want comparable money to CD Lamb, and we know what that number is now. So can they make that work? I don't think they can, but we'll find out.
He's definitely going to argue, well, CD got paid this, and we went to the Super Bowl, and I was the highest producing wide receiver on our team. So
that's going to be the number. The number's going to be has to be right around there.
Yep, still surprised CD took. It didn't seem guaranteed wise, like it was close to Justin Jefferson, but
CD had been reported to say he didn't want to be the one to set the market. He didn't care to be the number one wide receiver. He just wanted his fair share of the money, and get paid reasonably. And he didn't want it because he understood the flexibility the team needed to have, because it also, which we'll get into when we talk about the Cowboys, there's still Dak and there's still Micah. So we'll leave that for that. Let's go into the NFC West, since we are already talking about the Niners at this point. The NFC West, for those that don't know the teams that make up the NFC West, you have the Cardinals, you have the Rams, you have the Seahawks, one of Harrison's teams, and then you have the Niners. Okay, so we already just talked about the Niners. They went to the Super Bowl last year, lost to Patrick Mahomes and crew, and they are essentially at this point, depending on contracts, as we were talking about, seemingly going to bring the whole crew back, along with getting some rookies and whatnot. Outside of that team, for me, the team that stands out is the Seahawks, and I think they're not being talked about enough. Geno has played his ass off these last couple of years, especially when we all thought he was out of the league, essentially just going to be a backup, never going to amount to what his lottery number was, and he's been playing extremely well. Obviously, had some injury issues last season, but if you think about that receiving core, you got Njigba Smith, you have DK, you got Lockett. They got a sneaky good offensive team, and I feel that their defense is also still really solid, and that hasn't changed. So I'm still putting them up there, and I have them being around, which you'll see with one of my picks later on. But I don't think people are talking about the Seahawks enough, where they definitely were a wild card team last year, if I remember correctly, right?
Sounds about right.
Okay, I know. We'll go with that.
Yeah,
we'll go with
fine. That sounds good. I think Mike Macdonald. Mike Macdonald now, is it Mike Macdonald, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens? He's the head coach of the Seahawks.
They did not make it last year.
Okay, maybe it was the year
before.
They were
close. Yeah, okay.
They were better than we all
the year
thought
before.
They were yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they were better.
That's where Russ got hurt, and Gino stepped in and won some games there. Yeah, I think new head coach. I mean, the Pete Carroll tenure is over, but they've had some really great drafts. To your point, they shored up, some of those offensive positions over the last couple of years: Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker, JSN, and then the defense. They've just continued to do what that team does in the later rounds of the draft and finding, stud players at nice costs and building a team that way. So yeah, they're always in the mix. I worry about. I was just talking to Harrison before, about this Niners team. We just spent some time on Trent Williams, Ayuk, and whatnot. But just the health of this team, the depth of this team, and the Super Bowl hangover thing. Like Christian McCaffrey had a calf injury. We saw what that did, what that does to players, especially missing camp.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow struggled for pretty much all season. Once he started getting healthy, he had another injury. So you see how that can limit a running back that had a lot of touches last year too. So I'm just concerned about that Niners team, and I think the Seattle doesn't mind playing this role of we'll don't worry about us, we'll be there. You don't need to talk about us.
Yeah, absolutely.
They seem to play that card pretty well. So yeah, I love that pick. A's for sure.
I don't really. I'm intrigued to see what the Rams do, because I've seen a lot of analysts put them up there as being one of the best teams in the NFC. As we know, they just lost their Hall of Famer in Aaron Donald, who retired, which is a big void to fill for any team losing a guy like that. But they still have Puka. They still have the fastest white receiver ever, in my mind. That is just the shiftiest in and out of routes. And hopefully he can stay healthy. But outside of that, I don't really know too much about this Rams team. And I don't see what the hype is around this team. I know Stafford is still there. I mean, we know Stafford's going to get injured at some point. I mean, the most I've heard about Stafford this whole offseason is his wife sleeping with the backup quarterback in Georgia. That's about it. I don't know where they go with this. I don't know where this team goes at all. If any place, especially being the praise that we're seeing of the Niners and the Seahawks, I don't see how they make it out of this division or even get close to a wild card, in my opinion.
I think, I know, for speaking for myself, I counted the Rams out last year. And, I liked Puka Nacua. I had him in a dynasty league before the season started, so I'll take that flex there. But I didn't think he would be a number one receiver, out of the gate. He was slow, didn't his numbers didn't jump off the page there, and he got hurt all the time. So I mean, there's that, but I think it's probably just credit. You don't want to count Sean McVay out. Matthew Stafford is a well-respected Super Bowl winning quarterback, so there's that. But yeah, there's questions behind the line. Obviously you mentioned it, generational talent in the middle of your defensive line gone. And that defense wasn't that great with him there.
Yeah,
so, and with all respect to him, right? He can only do so much. So, Ramsey's gone. This team is a lot different from that Super Bowl team just a couple years ago. And Cooper Kupp's past 30 and hasn't been able to stay healthy, to your point. Kyron Williams can't stay healthy. Who knows what Blake Corum is? Like there's a lot of questionable things here, but they've surprised us before. Can they do it again? Sure. But yeah, I agree with you, Hayes, on this one.
I just find the NFC West as a whole to be really tough to pick, but also it could be really easy if maybe it is just the Niners. Yeah. But I feel like all the rest of the teams, I feel like the Cardinals have improved and they're my sleeper pick, but I feel like those three teams,
Shocker.
Cardinals, Seahawks, Rams, they're all like, they could be 9-8 teams, or one could take a leap. And then the Niners could not maybe implode, but, catch some stumbles. So I just think this division as a whole is really tough to pick. But we could just be really stupid, and it could be just like, oh, the Niners are really good. What are we thinking? So
who did the Cardinals replace Hollywood Brown?
I think so.
Did they replace Hollywood Brown?
Who is his
Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yeah, Marvin Harrison
right.
Jr.
I forgot about Marvin Harrison. I literally blanked.
That's the only thing I think they did.
I legit forgot who they drafted. I just didn't remember who they drafted.
I mean, there's questions there too. Is what 100%. Kyler Murray? I mean, Kyler's like a full year removed from ACL surgery, so like that's promising. He looked good. Trey McBride took that step. Can James Conner stay healthy? What are the other running backs on that team look like? Trey Benson.
Trey Benson's he's solid.
So and defensively, I know their draft, they drafted a ton of defensive players, and it, by all accounts had a really good draft. So yeah, I mean they could surprise some things, some teams. I know, Hayes, you're not high on Jonathan Gannon.
Not at all,
and I understand. But every year is different from the other, and we can listen back to this in January and be like, what were we talking? What were we thinking here? But incremental steps here. The Cardinals haven't been that good recently. They picked fourth last year for a reason. They had a top pick the year before for a reason. So can they make the incremental jumps here? They certainly have the pieces.
Well, with that said, our pieces and our winners, at least Sam and I, both chose the Niners to win, and Harrison chose the Cardinals because I feel like Harrison just didn't want it to be Niners across the board. Why did you choose the Cardinals? As you said, it was your sleeper a second ago.
So, I mean, some of my picks are based off. So, fun fact. So, first 3 iterations of 14-team postseason, about half the teams in a given season have made it back the following year. So I feel like there's going to be, the obvious divisional picks that are there that we're, recency bias, we're picking off last year, but there are going to be 2 or 3 teams, maybe even 4, that we just don't expect. Like for some reason or another, like we could put it all on the paper, we can read all the depth charts, we can say all this and all that, but they're just going to perform because of whatever their strength of schedule, or they get a hot streak, or whatever that may be. And for me, that's the Cardinals. And I'm really picking them just because I see some holes in the Niners, basically off contract situations. And, I like Brock Purdy. I'm not crazy about Brock Purdy.
Same.
And then, it really is a toss-up between the rest of those teams, like Rams, Seattle, and Arizona is a stretch. I'm not even going to say they're not. But they're 2 years removed from being a playoff team. Last year, they didn't have Kyler for a whole year. He looked really, really good when he came back, and that's with them trying to actively lose. And then for them to draft Marvin Harrison Jr., get some pieces on the defense, I don't know. I'm just going to roll with them. Could be completely wrong.
Yeah, went 1-8 without Kyler Murray last year, 3-5 with him, but they were 0-6 in divisional games. So you're not winning. You're not making the playoffs if you can't.
No.
Beat your division.
They were actively that defense was really bad, and the line was not good. And if they can make some improvements there, I don't see why they can't be in the mix.
Yeah, they knew they were going into the season without their franchise quarterback, if you will. So,
and they succeeded in getting the number 1 pick and getting the best receiver.
That's fair. Harrison, you gave yourself a little cushion by saying that I know that it could be a stretch, because I absolutely was going to come back to this later on and demolish you later on the season, but you just gave yourself a little cushion, so I'll let you be for now.
Absolutely a stretch. Okay. 100% a big stretch.
That's fair.
I do have to say, 2 years ago, the three of us and Dame are on this very podcast, and he said the Giants were going to make the playoffs. I think he may have said they were going to win the division, but whatever. We'll give him some grace there.
Yeah,
they made the playoffs, and we all laughed at him. So
all laughed.
Who knows? Anything can happen to that crazy stat you just pointed out, Harrison. But I would probably say it's more of a stretch than
it's a stretch. It's a stretch.
Well, there's going to be a lot of stretching need to be had in the NFC North, because it is going to be a gauntlet in that division this year. And I honestly believe that this is the toughest division in the NFC. You have the Bears, you have the Lions, you have the Packers, and you have the Vikings. As we know, as Harrison wears a USC hat that somebody should burn. Caleb is there. We got to watch. Well, I'd probably say I got to watch, because these two have been lacking on Hard Knocks. I don't know if they've watched all of this, but Caleb has been doing his thing during the preseason, showing himself off. I know there's people who make him a easy target to pick on, and I still don't believe he is the hype that he's going to be, but I still believe that he is going to be a great player. I just don't think he's going to be to the magnitude that everybody's gassing him to be at this point in time, but I could be wrong. But he is, in my opinion, the first rookie to come into a situation that is built to be a Super Bowl contending team or a playoff team right off rip in their first year. As we all know, most of the times the number 1 pick goes to a team that absolutely needs it, and they're nowhere near being where they need to be. And he walks into having a Keenan Allen, a DeAndre Swift, DJ Moore, so on and so forth, all around him, and drafting a Dunze coming right along with him. So I do believe there's a lot of opportunity for the Bears. I do believe that this makes this one of the hottest coaching seats in the NFL with Matt Eberflus. And if we remember, the team came on hot at the end last year, but they weren't the greatest team. And under Eberflus, they haven't really been the greatest, even though the guys love him. I do feel that this is a make or break for him, but I also don't think. I feel that with Ryan Pace being there, it's like, okay, if this works and this looks well, we continue with you. If not, we sever the ties early and we get a coach that can be along with Caleb for a while that we feel would be the best for him. Also, on the opposite end for me is the Lions. Championing the Lions for quite some time. Glad they finally have turned around. Dan Campbell and all his lovely quotes and infamous moments have led them to this point of having a phenomenal playoff run last year, and taking chances is his calling card with the team. Some that burn him in the end, but it empowers his team, and his team absolutely loves him for it. I think they are absolutely in the running to win the NFC. Period. That team is just really, really good. They've built some really, really good pieces. They got some really good pieces around them. Trades, wide receivers. Looking at the quarterback, it's just really, really just such a good team. Packers, I know a lot of people have them pegged at being, just what they did in the playoffs last year and the run that they had, pegged them at being the top of the NFC. My thing is, we've only seen one season of Jordan Love, and that could have been a flash in the pan last year, or it could be a continued history of the Packers finding a quarterback late rounds and making them into this next Hall of Fame quarterback. It could continue on that path. It could not. I'm really curious to seeing where this goes, and there's been a lot of moving pieces on that O-line to see where that goes. And then the Vikings are very interesting to me. I just feel I feel for JJ. Honestly, I really do. I just feel for JJ. I know he wants to be loyal and stay there and do all this stuff, but I wish he would have left. I honestly do. But I do still think they're going to be a tough team, quote unquote. But I don't think they're really going to contend with the other three teams that I've mentioned.
I think I kind of disagree with the NFC North being the toughest division. I think the NFC West is tougher, and I think the AFC North is tougher. But that's just because
it's an NFC
in the NFC. Okay, yeah. I just think I would take the NFC West, but that's here nor there. They're both tough. I think the Vikings are going to be bad, like real bad. There is those 4-13 teams, and that's kind of my outlook for them. I think the Packers are mid. They're just middle of the pack, pun intended, I guess. And then my mind refuses to believe in the Lions. I know they've done it 2 years in a row now, but I just can't do it.
This has been, as Hayes has mentioned, a Dan Campbell Stan podcast since the jump, right? Like we criticize, like what the hell? Who is this guy? What biting ankles? What the hell are you talking about? And then quickly, we've been along for the ride and we love this guy. So I really like this Packers team, but I really like this Lions schedule. And I think after Thanksgiving or something, Jared Goff is outside once, pretty much it's a really I don't have it in front of me and I meant to pull it up, but it's a really favorable schedule condition wise. And I just, this team was, in the NFC title game last year. They really believe in Jared Goff, and there's a lot of talent on this team. They have two great running backs. Amon-Ra St. Brown is slept on, even though he is a prolific wide receiver. I think the ceiling is still high for this guy. And who knows? Maybe I'm still aspiring Jameson Williams fan. Is this the year? Is this going to happen? So I like this Lions team a lot. Sam Laporta too. So I have them winning the division here, but I like this Packers team. I like all the weapons they have. Jordan Love. I know the helium is really high on Jordan Love, especially how he ended the season and in the playoffs and everything. But he's got a nice group of wide receivers. Josh Jacobs is, I'm not in love with Josh Jacobs, but I think he's an upgrade over where Aaron Jones is now. Certainly a lot of questions on the defense there too, but I think this division's pretty tough. And, I'm not going to say a word about Sam Darnold because I've done enough of that, but
he's terrible.
Yeah. I think everyone's high in the preseason. And now it's no choice. This is Sam Darnold's team, and
I've got my USC hat on. He's bad. He was bad at USC. He was bad on the Jets. That's
just the thing. And I think they would have been. And I probably said this in March and April. They'd be better off with just kind of taking best available player in April and just kind of seeing what happens this year. But yeah, when you have Justin Jefferson, anchoring your offense there, you always have a shot. And he performed pretty well with whoever replaced Kirk Cousins after he tore his Achilles. I don't remember, but yeah, I'm not.
It's on the Bucs. He's on the Bucs.
Yeah, I would think that Nick Mullins. I think that the Vikings are closer to getting the first pick than they are, winning the division for sure.
Absolutely.
And this Bears team, I love to all the points you just mentioned, Hayes. And I've only seen one episode of Hard Knocks, so I'm not necessarily drinking the Kool-Aid. And I wasn't the high guy on Caleb either. But I've just liked what I've heard.
I was.
Yeah, I liked what I've heard in the off season during camp. Again, only seen one episode of Hard Knocks, so I'm not doing the Aaron Rodgers thing I did last year as a Jets fan and sitting here guys, you were right. Here I am. This team's going to be really good. I think the future is bright. This team did not finish last year. They would have had the 9th pick. They stole Caleb Williams and DJ Moore from the Panthers, and I think they have a nice foundation. So it's exciting times in Chicago.
The Bears are they're my Texans of this year.
Okay.
I just see a lot of comparisons there. You got, a rookie quarterback. You have a lot of weapons on the outside and, a solid running back. So I really like them.
Well, Harrison likes them enough that is his pick for the North.
Another stretch, I will admit.
I've gone back.
Stretch shake out here.
But who had the Texans last year?
Not me.
Nobody.
Nobody.
I did go back and forth, but again, my love for Dan Campbell, I was like, I can't pound my chest for Dan Campbell all these years and then not pick the Lions.
Yeah, I can't hate on the Lions. They're obviously super talented, and they should be right there.
Yeah, Sam and I both have the Lions. I don't see the Lions not taking that division, but again, every team is one injury away from not being where they could and should be. So anything is possible. So the stretch that Harrison said could be possible. They could edge them out by one game. Who knows? Right? It's very, very possible. Who knows? I don't think it'll be that, but we'll see. What I'm fearful of seeing is the NFC South, because it is absolutely probably one of the worst divisions, if not the worst. You have Atlanta, the Falcons, the Panthers, the Saints, and the Bucks. The two names that stand out there are the Falcons and the Bucks. Bucks were in the playoff last year with Baker Mayfield. They bounced by Eagles. They played great, and then they got bounced the following week. The Falcons have made some really, really great moves. Kurt Chains, a.k.a. Kirk Cousins, is out there, but they also have drafted Mr. Penix, who absolutely balled out in the preseason to see what's going on there. They've literally picked up Justin Simmons as safety, which was a sneaky move, one of the better safeties in the league, on a one-year prove-it deal, because he definitely wants to get an extended contract, and teams were not calling for that because he wanted more. To see what they did. I really love what the Falcons have been doing. Like, quietly, they have been building a team. Outside of, I know the Penix pick would confuse a lot of people, especially where they got him and what they could have potentially got while just signing and getting Kirk Cousins. But I still do like the move, because even though he is definitely one of the older people to be drafted, for sure, he is an older young man in football. But I do love what they have to do. I pray for all of you fantasy players, because I'm not playing fantasy this year, but I pray for all of you that have Kyle Pitts. This is the year that something happens for you, that Kyle Pitts goes off. I highly doubt, with everything that has happened at this point, that's the case, but I feel the tides have turned, so we'll see what happens there. The Bucks, as I mentioned, they're in playoffs last year. I still don't have faith in Baker Mayfield, but he does have a Hall of Fame wide receiver in Mike Evans, and if he has another 1,000-yard season, I think he passes or ties Jerry Rice in most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons NFL history. So you have a Hall of Famer there that that is a safety valve. A place that's not safe at all is New Orleans, because God knows what that team is doing. Derek Carr is whatever he is. Honestly, I would not be surprised if we get halfway through the season and Spencer Rattler is the quarterback if he makes the cuts. Because I know there's a fight between him and I forgot the other young man's name. But
the guy who got busted for PEDs last year as a rookie, the third string quarterback. What was his name?
I don't even know. I saw him briefly the other day, and they were saying that was the battle between those two. But what I saw from Spencer is what I've seen way better than what Derek Carr has done down there. So yes, it's only the preseason.
Jake Haener. Jake Haener.
Yeah, there you go. Whoever the hell he is. So I'm very curious of what goes on there. Alvin Kamara is a mystery. What Alvin Kamara are we going to get? Are we going to get the injured Alvin Kamara? Are we going to get the Alvin Kamara of old? Are we going to get a serviceable Alvin Kamara? I don't know. At this point in time, he's just the name that's there, and he's kind of floated around for potential trades to other teams to fill, but he's just kind of I feel he's just washing away in the bayou.
Yeah, he's not an efficient runner anymore. I mean, there was a game where he caught like 1 billion balls, and he's still a pretty good pass catcher, but through the on the ground, he's not Alvin Kamara.
I also don't like Dennis Allen as a head coach. I'm just going to be honest. I feel that he got that just because Sean is like, I got you, my boy. I'm going to fake retire. You get the position, and then I'll just come back somewhere else so you can get the head coaching job because you wouldn't have got it otherwise. And the Panthers are just the Panthers.
Yeah.
I just have no idea what the hell they are doing there, period.
Shout out to the Saints, though, for the best name in football right now, Kool-Aid.
Oh, yeah, Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Yeah.
Yep. From?
They got that going for them. Bama. Alabama.
Thank you. Yeah. Good job. That's all I got to say about that.
I mean, since we're kind of just grouping the division and like going down the list here, I mean, Atlanta won 7 games last year with Arthur Smith, and I don't want to do the Kyle Pitts thing. To your point, I know we've been joking about it all summer.
I'm a recovering Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, it's just addict. Like Bijan, Kyle Pitts, like Drake London, like. Again, I've said this point before. If you're starting a franchise tomorrow, these are guys on your short list at each of those positions just because of their, the potential. Ceiling the potential they have and their age, right? And they haven't really met any of that. I mean, Kyle Pitts had a nice year, but Matt Ryan was his quarterback his rookie year. So, I mean, the sky's the limit there. Michael Penix can play. It's, Achilles injury, older quarterback. The Penix draft, and when you're going to give Cousins all this money is still like, I hadn't thought about it in months. Thinking about it today, I'm like, man, this thing makes no sense.
The only way it makes sense is if Kirk Cousins goes down in like week 2.
Yeah,
but other than that, it's just weird. It's still weird. Like no matter how you look at it.
But could this team win? Yeah, sure, definitely. I mean, I think they're best positioned to win, and I think the biggest addition they have is that Arthur Smith is not running their offense, and and when we get to the AFC, I'm gonna bury the Steelers for that. And I know in spring, in preseason you play vanilla schemes and you don't really do much, and like this isn't even like a quarterback thing with Russ and Fields here, but that team just looks like lost. So, I didn't think it could get worse than Matt Canada, but maybe it can. I don't know. Ooh. Maybe I'll be wrong. But the thing with the Bucs and I've, didn't really know much about Dave Canales, who's now the head coach of the Panthers, but he resurrected, if you will, Gino's career in Seattle and then went and fixed Baker. Now he's gone, and I don't know who the OC is there. But we're pretty far removed from Tampa Bay, Todd Bowles in Tampa Bay from a few years ago. This is obviously a different team and an older Godwin and Mike Evans, but I'd be worried about regression there. But
there's going to be tons. Yeah. I mean, Tampa's schedule week 5 to 10 is at Atlanta, at New Orleans, home for Baltimore, Atlanta again, and then they go to Kansas City, and then they play San Francisco. So I just see a lot of regression for Tampa.
Liam Cohen is their offensive coordinator. He played quarterback at UMass, so take that for what it is.
Okay. Well,
okay. Yeah, I just see a lot. I see a lot of regression. They snuck up on people last year, and they have a very similar
8 and 9 could win, just like last year. Were they even over 500 last year? 8 and 9 could win this division, and you're going to host a playoff game, and you might, it might work out like it did last year for them. But we all knew that they, we'll probably say the same thing about Atlanta. We'll probably be sitting here like, is this team really good? I don't know what their schedule is. I'm sure it's pretty similar to Tampa just because they're playing similar teams, similar divisions. But like, we'll probably be sitting here at some point like we have with many teams. Like, this team's not very good, but they're probably going to end up hosting a playoff game. And that's just kind of how it works when you have these other teams dogfighting to, get to the top, the West, the East, and the North. And then you have you could win with going 7 and 9 or 7 and 10 or something. So who knows? But
So, according to Sharp Football Analysis, the Falcons have the easiest schedule in 2024.
That helps.
And so, there you go. That could all change based on what teams look like when you're actually playing them, obviously. Yeah. But it's a good precursor. I think with Raheem Morris, I like him as a coach.
Agreed.
I think with Kirk Cousins behind center, they really didn't have a quarterback last year at all, and they won 7 games
with Desmond Ritter.
I think Bijan is probably, he can be the best running back in the league. I think he'll might show that this year. And then the strength on the outside. And then even if Kirk does go down, I think you do have a serviceable guy in Penix. So I really don't see how they fumble this division, but it's the NFL and anything's possible.
Desmond Ritter, by the way, is the backup quarterback for the Cardinals.
Yeah. So he is. Hopefully we never see him.
So, Harrison's stretch of the pick, he might be his quarterback depending on what happens.
Call of Duty season.
If Kyler goes down, it's not. Yeah, if Kyler goes down, like they're not winning. Like it's just not gonna happen. My pick is based on him staying healthy.
I do want to talk about some. Well, I'll just say this real quick. So we all chose the Falcons to win. This is a unanimous decision here that we chose the Falcons to win. So I do want to say something that popped out recently was Tom Brady talking about how this current state of the NFL has given up on these young quarterbacks. Sam, you know that I have stood on this podcast for so long screaming about this, that they're putting these young kids out there too quick, too early, and I don't like it. And I'm glad he said something about it, because obviously people listen to what he said, but it doesn't change what they're going to do in the locker room or change the philosophy of the league. But I'm glad that he pointed out something that I know I've been screaming, and I say that because we just talked about Desmond Ritter. He came there. He was a starter for 2 years, or starter for technically 1 full year, right?
Yeah, he was a late round pick. Mariota was that 2 years ago? Yeah. So
yeah. Because Mariota was the backup for the Eagles last year. Ritter was a full the quarterback all
they swapped him out with Heineke.
Falcons, so.
Right.
So you're getting these young guys that don't even have an opportunity. Like I watched the Commanders game last night, the last what you call it, preseason game, and I'm saying I know they got Jaden. Where's Sam Howell? They just drafted him like 2 years ago. He was supposed to be him. Yeah, but this is my point. Like he's just gone, and he's in purgatory now. Where the hell is he?
Seattle.
Oh, okay, great. Give these young kids a chance. Give them a chance.
But okay, I agree, and we've had this conversation before. But so I won't go back here. But Desmond Ritter was a 3rd round pick. Good. Yeah, and out of Cincinnati, who had a really good year, and their defense carried them for a lot. Correct. I don't remember all of those. I didn't watch all of those games, but I know Sauce Gardner was on that team, and I like him. But he was, so that might be the exception here. But I understand your take agree. Here. I think we're no longer in the era though where you're giving Jamarcus Russell, Sam Bradford a boatload of guaranteed money and you have 5 years, figure it out. Now it is very easy, as we've just seen. Kenny Pickett's gone. All these first what quarterback from this legendary 21 class is still there? It's Trevor Lawrence, and he got paid. Every one of them is gone. Yeah. Trey Lance is gone. Mac Jones is gone. None of them are. Justin Fields probably isn't starting. None of them are starters, and they, unless a Geno Smith type thing happens in a few years, they probably won't be starters. So that's just kind of the salary cap and how football is now. And it's no longer 20 years ago where you're kind of just married to this albatross of a contract. But yeah, no, it's you get these guys that pop out and finally develop. Sam, we just shit on Sam Darnold. He might, he might look decent. Kevin O'Connell is a good coordinator and it has a really good scheme. It could work.
Sam Darnold.
Kevin O'Connell.
I said Sam Darnold is
right.
Sam Darnold.
Exactly. So there's that. But I didn't think Brock Purdy was going to lead a team to the Super Bowl.
I don't think anybody really did.
So I don't know.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned two quarterbacks here, as in Kenny Pickett and then also Trey Lance, because they're both in this next division, which would be the NFC East. And one just threw 5 interceptions in a preseason game.
Oh, my God.
And the other is potentially going to get cut off of a roster tomorrow or today when you guys hear the podcast. That would be Kenny Pickett and Trey Lance. But let's just talk about the NFC East. What happened?
Who's Philly's backup then?
It won't be him. It'd be why can't I think of his name? He was the backup last year. His name is slipping my mind, but he'll probably no. Mariota is nowhere near the Eagles, thank God. I'll look up his name. It's slipping my mind.
Yeah,
White quarterback who's actually pretty good. McKinney, I think, if I remember correctly, or McKee or some shit. Anyway,
host the podcast. I'll look it
up. Yeah. Anyway, so we have Dallas, the Cowboys, we have the Giants, we have the Eagles, and we have the Commanders. It's pretty easy for me in this one, and you can add all my bias in this, but you can also just watch what the hell they've done this offseason as well too, and the moves that they made. The biggest moves to me that they made was offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Those are the best 2 moves that the Eagles made this whole offseason. I don't care what they did with players. That is what matters to me the most. Getting Vic Fangio, getting Mr. Kellen Moore to see what happens. Again, they got to play. They had a terrible end last stretch of the season. They essentially stumbled into that playoff game against the Bucs, and the Bucs basically just took a poop on them. And it wasn't great. It wasn't great at all to watch that. But they lose Fletcher Cox as he retires. Jason Kelsey retires, goes into the booth, even though apparently he's been around the team this whole offseason and apparently has a locker there still. But just going out and get Jahan Dotson, seeing how Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown are locked up for a while and how they continue to improve. Getting Saquon Barkley is a massive upgrade from what they've had, and allowing him to actually be behind the offensive line and have a competent quarterback to throw the ball. And then seeing what I've all heard about Jalen, if that can all come together, and what they have on the defensive end, finally having DBs is a huge thing. They still can't figure out this linebacker part for whatever reason. They haven't had a all-pro linebacker since Jeremiah Trotter. So that says a lot there in itself. But I do believe they are the cream of the crop in the NFC East. But I do think number 2 is the Cowboys right there. And it obviously depends on what is going to happen. They have all the players locked up, but offensively, the Cowboys only have CD. They have Brandon Cooks. Okay. I really don't know what else that they do there. And also a big part that a lot of people aren't talking about is their defensive coordinator is gone. He is now a head coach for another team in the division. And that is what also led them to being such a good team. So I'm curious to seeing how their defense is going to be. I think Dak is going to ball out this year again. I think he's still going to do what he had to do. I'm sure he's going to show up and be Dak like he does with his interceptions at some key point, as he has done throughout his whole career. But I am very just curious to see how the defense does this year for them. And speaking of coach hot seats, for both Eagles and Cowboys, those are the 2 hottest coaches seats in the NFL, as Mike McCarthy has not won anything, but yet and still he continues to get extended. And Nick Sirianni, now 2 years removed from the Super Bowl and had that abysmal finish last year, is also on the hot seat with everything around him. So curious with that. Giants, Dable's also in the hot seat. I don't think he gets a fair shake because of who his quarterback is. He kind of just inherited Daniel Jones, and it just really is what it is with Daniel Jones. Funny stat. Sorry, Giants fans. They didn't throw 1 touchdown through the preseason. Not like it matters during the regular season, but didn't throw not 1. Daniel Jones looked absolutely terrible. But I do love their defensive line. Their D-line is absolutely nuts. And they are going to touch a lot of quarterbacks' heinies throughout the whole year. So, yes, I said it. I said it. That's what they're going to do. It's gonna happen.
Hey,
Happen.
All right.
Just watch. Heinies will be touched. The Commanders are the most intriguing team in this division, though, with Jaden Daniels. The rave reviews about him. I know people have compared him and Caleb. Obviously, they're 1 and 2 quarterbacks in the draft, and people have said that he's better than him. I believe that neither of them have played a true NFL snap, so I'm curious to see how that happens. But I do like what he has and what he's capable of. They have some veteran pieces around him. Eckler, Ertz being there. Defense. I mean, they still have what's his name as a wide receiver. Why can't I think of his name?
Terry McLaurin.
Yep, Scary Terry. So they still have him out there, whatnot. So they still have some solid pieces offensively and defensively. They've added some pieces. They lost a couple of huge pieces before, but I'm really just intrigued to see what's going to happen, especially with Dan Quinn, and how he always brings a team together. All his teams that he's ever had, they play really, really well together. And it's you've seen flashes in the preseason if you paid attention to it. So I'm intrigued by them, but I think if the Eagles lose this is this is going to be one of the worst things and worst feelings for me. But I don't see how they can lose this. But yeah,
there has been like a repeat winner in this division, right? In like 20 years, because the Cowboys won last year. So like, sure, anything is possible. I think the Eagles are without their flaws. Of course, I don't think any team in the NFL is perfect, or I think they are. If you just dissected a roster, like, and just you include the front office there, as part of the team, they're top tier in this league. So I'll bet on them, but there are those questions, right? I mean, Kelsey's gone. What's that line look like? How are what's the evolution of the tush push or the Heine push, if you will, Hayes? Like, what does that look like? Like, what does Saquon look like there? But then, yeah, you drafted 2 corners that we really like. I know you and I like Quayon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, but like they're still, they're rookies, and I don't doubt that they'll get there, and weirder things have happened. But there's a lot of holes on this defense too. But again, addition by subtraction. Now you have Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio, which is certainly an upgrade. We saw what this team looked like losing Steichen and Gannon the year before to head coaching jobs, and clearly that was it impacted the personnel on that team. So I think it's definitely their division to lose. I'm really worried about the Cowboys. If I was a Cowboy fan, I would be worried because they really didn't do anything, and I'm sure they'll find a running back with cuts coming up, or trade, or do something. Because going in with Zeke and Rico Dowdle is not the answer. The line, you've lost significant pieces there, and Mike Zimmer is now the DC in Dallas. So I mean, he was the Vikings head coach for a long time. He was the Bengals DC. He can scheme a defense. They have the potential there. I think Dak's going to be throwing for his life. He may be running for his life. But I'm really I'm really going back and forth. Like, do the Cowboys even make the playoffs? Just because I just don't, and I don't want to be, I don't really buy into this national media bias with the Cowboys, and we have to talk about the Cowboys all the time. I just think from how the other teams have, or how the Eagles have improved, and the Commanders and Giants have improved in this division, I just don't know if the Cowboys have enough. There, Giants are contending for the first pick in the draft. I love Malik Neighbors, but even a stud wide receiver needs to get the ball, and I'm just not sure they're going to get one. And then I really like the Commanders. Jaden Daniels needs to play, though. He needs to be available, and that maybe, that seems like it could be a concern. But, I like what I've seen from him, and all the reports are good, and they have they're building something there. No one's really expecting anything. So I'll be interesting. Yeah, but for long story short, it's the Eagles to lose for sure.
Harrison?
I think you guys have said enough about this division. I mean, up until 10 minutes ago, I had the Cowboys, and then I'm just thinking about it, and they just have so many question marks, just too many. Not to say the Eagles don't, I mean, but the Eagles are just in such a way better position to pick. It wouldn't surprise me if the Cowboys won the division, but I'm just not going to pick them. And I also like the Commanders a lot. I think they're on the upswing. I just don't think they're there yet, and I think the Giants are terrible.
The Giants are absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
The backup quarterback is Tanner McKee. And the Cowboys, that this all in that Jerry has said that they were going to be, I know a lot of Cowboys fans, real Cowboys fans, not the annoying ones, which most of them are, have flat out said, like what is all in? What do you quantify to be as all in? You have your 3 homegrown star players that you're trying to figure out their contracts. Like that's going to be the death of this current team is those 3 contracts. Because Dak would be stupid to actually sign the contract right now. Because he's going to be able to go to the free agency. He can ball out this season. He can use all that. And teams are going to throw him money. I mean, throw him money when he becomes a free agent. And I would not be surprised if the number 1 contender to try to get him is the New York Football Giants. Because they've seen what he's done to their team repeatedly over and over again. And they need a quarterback because Daniel Jones sure as hell won't be their quarterback next year.
Yeah, look what Kirk Cousins got off a torn Achilles.
Exactly.
So, yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you want to risk it again if you're Dak. I mean, he's ended seasons early with injuries. But, yeah, no, the point's there. And I think he knows, and Jerry knows he's going to take care of him, just like he did with Zeke and how he did with Dak before. But this roster would be really good if it was 2018.
Yeah.
It would. No, it would. Like offensively, at least, aside from CeeDee Lamb, I mean, Brandon Cooks and Zeke Elliott, and if that line was exceptional years ago, but we're so far removed from that time that I just don't think like incrementally they did anything or did enough to address the needs on this team and win. Could be wrong. I think there's, but like if you just took a snapshot of this offense, at least you have a good play caller in Mike McCarthy, most of the time, and then Dak and CeeDee Lamb. But like, would you take Dak and CeeDee Lamb over like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase? Or like
I don't want to
whatever.
do that to them.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is like at least those teams have there's a lot more around them, and they have
Yeah.
So I think again, we could all look foolish in January, but like right now, I just don't. I'm not buying it.
I dig it. So we all have the Eagles. Go Birds! Appreciate you guys. Wild card picks. Let's get to this and close this out.
My Eagles.
If I could virtually smack you right now, I would. Cowboys, Packers, and Seahawks are for my wild card. Sam has the Packers, the Bears, and the Seahawks, and Harrison has the Niners, which is wild as hell to see that there. Packers and Lions, also wild as hell to see there. But
just wait till you see his championship picks.
We're there. Oh my god! So my
Eagles are gonna beat my Cards.
Guys, you can't see this because it's a podcast, but he put Philly, Arizona in the NFC Championship game, Harrison. So he's tripling down here.
I'm tripling down. We're going hard.
So what happens if Kyler? No, Kyler.
Who do I have to call?
Then I'm wrong.
Who do I have to call at your job to get you drug tested? Because clearly you're on some shit. If you think that the Cardinals are making it to the NFC Championship.
Just watch this space come January.
Oh, I cannot wait to slander you when this does not happen. I cannot wait. This is going to be the greatest. So I'm gonna walk away from this because this is gonna be the most glorious episode. You know how I go off about Gleyber Torres, who I haven't done so far this episode. You should be very happy about that. He's also been doing all right now, so he's not the one I'm worried about. But
you're not going out on a limb to say the Cardinals are bad. I'm the one out here.
They're not good enough to get to the NFC Championship.
I'm the one with my ass out, Brandon.
Well, you better cover that shit up.
They went 4-13 the last 2 years, so
we're touching heinies.
You better put some pants on. Eagles Niners for me in the championship. If somehow, some way it pans out. If it doesn't, I can see the Eagles Lions. Wow. And then I have the Eagles winning that. And then Sam has nobody.
I don't know. Eagles and someone. I don't know. Eagles Lions maybe. Period. Eagles Green Bay.
See, I put myself out there.
You did.
I put myself out.
You did. Sam put nothing out there.
I just said Eagles something. Eagles.
Yeah, you said it now.
That sounds good. I like Eagles.
I honestly, I put them there. I have no idea. I have no idea
either. And I know
no idea.
People are listening because they think we may have an idea. We don't. Sorry.
I'm pretty sure it's a sure thing for what I got. I just don't know about the Niners right now because it could be. Excuse me. It could be the Lions. Honestly, I can see them being there. But again, to Harrison's point earlier, you don't know what's going to happen. None of us know what's going to happen.
Brandon just knows it won't be the Cardinals.
I 100% know it won't be the Cardinals. If there was a DraftKings bet for the Cardinals to not make it anywhere near that, I would slam that right now. I would 100% slam that right now.
I'm sure there is actually.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go find it. And then I'm going to put as much money as I possibly can on it, reasonable amount of money on it, and just show you the receipt for it. That's it.
All right.
I am going to make a bet.
You can just hand the cash to me, really.
No, I will not do that because I'm just going to make money off of DraftKings. So, because that's just stupid. I will say, though, and I will talk to Sam to have that put up, I'm going to bet all of my division winners on DraftKings. And I'm going to do that as a parlay, and you can post that on IG and see what people think, and we'll go from there. But I am 100% going to make the division bet as a parlay for every division.
I won't be doing mine.
That's fair. That's fair. But still, I will be doing mine. So that's that. That's been the NFC, and we will be coming back next week with the AFC. The week of the first game. This weekend, we also have college football. Shout out to FSU for blowing it in Ireland. Shout out to y'all. Y'all are great. I watched a little of that game, and it was just very, very interesting.
It's a good game.
The build up to the game was phenomenal, though. All the promo that ESPN did while they were there. I mean, Pat McAfee did a whole show inside of an Irish pub. It was very, very interesting. He had Nick Saban in the pub too, which was even more funny. But yeah, the whole build up to the whole Ireland game was pretty funny. I don't know why you're showing USC. They're not going to do a damn thing this year, especially not in the Big Ten. The Big Ten is the division is going to be in competition with the SEC for the future going forward, because
it's very tough.
It's going to be wild and fire.
We're very close to just having one big conference. It's going to happen. Next 5 years is going to happen.
Well, just do me a favor. Whatever conference that is, just make sure James Franklin is no longer the head coach of Penn State. Sam, can you close us out of here, please, sir?
I'm really disappointed because I have BetMGM up because I was looking at over-unders to potentially mention on the podcast. And I was trying to look at what Arizona's number was to win the Super Bowl. And my browser is just freezing, and I'm stalling because I just want to find what
Arizona Super Bowl odds.
Yeah, if you could look it up. But yeah, NFC preview.
Plus 10,000.
Oh, that's all. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
It's a meager number.
Go ahead, Harrison. Slam it.
For comparison, the Chiefs are plus 500.
Oh, Lord.
plus 10,000 is crazy.
That is wild.
Chiefs are plus 500. Niners are 600. Ravens are 1,000. So,
I'm glad
someone
Vegas
make that bet for
me.
Harrison. Yeah,
I'm glad Vegas agrees.
Yeah,
with
I can't bet.
Yeah, he can't bet. But if some strange, demented individual that's listening to this podcast wants to slam it for Harrison, please let us know. And
I'll Venmo someone
$5.
Okay. please.
No,
Sam,
man, but yeah, NFC preview, nothing short but amusing as always. So for Harrison and Branden, my name's Sam. Thanks so much for listening. We will be back next week, tackle the AFC and Week 1 picks as the NFL season will be underway. So yeah, until next time, peace.
Shout out Raygun.
Aaron Judge is really good at baseball.
That's not a salacious one.
Brian Cashman, pay Juan Soto.
Okay. Is that a haiku?
Brian Cashman, get rid of Gleyber Torres.
Oh, it's definitely a haiku.
And take Aaron Boone with you. Good night, everybody. That's it.
Was that a haiku?
Maybe not.